What you see on this slide is the traditional or typical view of creativity. There's a period of preparation where your idea learns the facts behind something. They get that knowledge background. And then this idea of incubation. This is when, if you listen to a lot of the mainstream press and the like, it'll talk about this is where you're mulling it over in the back of your head, so to speak, not consciously thinking about it. Things are just kind of stewing in the back, percolating, whatever analogy you want to use. And then, eureka, you get that flash of insight. And that's it, we're good to go. And you take that idea and you start to do some of the feasibility work with it. You evaluate it, you go back and do some more passes to improve it. Elaboration this is more when you start thinking about the business planning stage. But here's the problem with this view. It's not that this view is wrong, it's that this view is frustrating. And that is, how can I more productively engage in this incubation phase so that, whammo, I get to the eureka point a little bit more predictably than just time or chance. And this fits in very nicely with the textbook definition of people are seen as creative or not. And there are some reasons for that. That's not completely invalid. But if I'm not creative, I'm just out of luck, whatever. Well, that's not really the case. I'm having a little slide problem here, so let me fix it. Let's talk about the reality of creative thought. In the interest of keeping your workload down, I did not give you this long reading assignment that talked about a place called the Eureka Ranch in Cincinnati. I had the privilege of being trained in creativity by a guy who'd been one of the original staff members on this or at this Eureka Ranch. And it's exactly what it sounds like, Eureka Ranch, a place where you go to have insights. It was a very highly high-priced creativity camp that companies spent literally tens of thousands of dollars to send their executives through. And I've been trained in most of the Eureka Ranch techniques. What you're going to get over the next two videos in about 12 minutes is going to be what people literally pay tens of thousands of dollars to hear, albeit in a consulting format. So hang on, tightly lace your shoes so that they don't knock your socks off, and let's go to work. When we talk about creative thought, another term that many people use, and it has to do with the guy that famous writer about creativity, he called it lateral thinking. Logical thinking is what we do for the most part, and this is where we're searching for the one right answer. I give you a finance question about what will be the IRR for the investor, and there really is one right answer. Creative thought, lateral thinking, has a very different outcome. What you are searching for is many as opposed to one. Instead of the right answer, you're searching for many possible answers. And this can become frustrating to people. It's like, well, did I get it right or not? It's like, I don't know. Is it possible? Did you generate a lot of possible ideas that we can continue to chew on? Yep, then you did great. Well, is one of them right? I don't know. We're going to have to do a lot more work and launch some businesses and find out which one perhaps was exactly right. But that's not, the goal is not one right answer. It is give me many possible answers. Well, why is this so hard for us? And it is hard for many of us. One is we've been taught to search for the one right answer, but our brains fall into patterns, and we're not even going to give them this kind terminology called patterns. We're going to call them ruts. And once our mind is stuck in that rut, it's very hard for us to get out of that. Now, if we were doing this class face-to-face, I would play some fun games that would take 10, 20 minutes, and I would do some things to rut your thinking and then show you just how rutted your thinking had become and how you couldn't see some, in hindsight, very obvious extensions of the task I was giving you. I don't have that luxury, so let me prove it to you this way. How many of you have ever had that song in your head you just can't get out of your brain? Bingo, that's a rut. And so once we are into that pattern, it becomes very difficult for us to get out of that pattern. And let me illustrate this for you this way. What we all want to do is to move from our old obvious idea to the new novel idea. And what we want to do is just go, I'm going to think really hard and boom. Well, it just doesn't work that way in practice, because what seems to be a straight path between the land of old and obvious to the land of new and novel. In fact, you have the Alps mountains in the way, and you can't get across those suckers no matter how hard you try. So what we need to do is we need to get into an airplane. This is not one of the airplanes I flew. It's a Swiss F-18, but still a fine airplane. We need to get into an airplane and fly over that mountain. But and this is one of those insights that is so simple, but so powerful. What we want to do is we want to take off in the land of old and obvious and land in the new and novel, and it never works that way. There is typically no airfield in the land of new and novel. The nearest airfield is in a place I call Wackyville, which is where wacky ideas land. And this is why people have a hard time doing it, is they want to go straight to the good idea, and it doesn't work like that. First, you have to get out of the rut, and that rut usually works as a wacky idea. So now we have to land in Wackyville, and then we power our way back to the land of new and novel through some very specific techniques. To sum this section up, all of the things I'm going to share with you over the next couple of videos are based on getting your mind out of a rut so that it can see new potentialities. So any restructuring technique that you want to use to do that works for you is a viable technique to make this happen. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to get out of your old patterns so that you can create new patterns. And as always, remember, the goal of this is not that. It's many possible answers that we have a lot more work to do with. Let me wrap this, actually I'll hold my story for the next video. So come back to the next video and we'll talk about the principles of the creative thinking process and explain some techniques to you. Join me then.